For more on this story, we're pleased to be joined now by John Zogby of Zogby Analytics, author of the book First Globals, Understanding, Managing, and Unleashing Our Millennial Generation. And also joining us from Virginia, where he Skypes in, presidential historian Craig Shirley, author of the new book Last Act, The Final Years and Emerging Legacy of Ronald Reagan. So here's the latest Monmouth poll. Carson up 14 percentage points. John, you're nodding your head. You're saying I might have been a couple of weeks late, but here comes Carson.
Plus or minus. Yeah, here comes Carson. And I think short-lived as well. You know, Iowans, both sides take their responsibilities very, very seriously. No doubt, you know, that Trump led during the summer, that Carson leads now. Watch, I think, for Ted Cruz to make his move and be the next front runner, probably in the next couple of weeks.
All right, a John Zogby Newsmax alert. Look for Ted Cruz. We heard it right here first. Craig Shirley, let me ask you, Trump attacking Carson or certainly raising doubts about the good doctor being a Seventh-day Adventist, does this show that Donald's a little rattled and concerned about Carson?
No, I don't think so. Actually, J.D., this is a discussion of people's religion has a long tradition in American politics. Jimmy Carter made a big deal about being a born-again Christian, and Reagan was born again, and George W. Bush, he was also made a pretty big deal about his own religion. So I don't think so. He really didn't criticize. He just said he didn't know about it, and a lot of people don't know about it. But there's no doubt that that Ben Carson is going to be doing well in Iowa. It does have a strong evangelical streak, especially in the Republican Party, so it's really no surprise that he's moved into the lead over Donald Trump now.
Now, John, Dr. Carson's fighting back, saying he's not going to get into Trump's mud pit. Is that a sign of character or just smart politics?
It's smart politics, because that shouldn't be Ben Carson's MO. That's what he uniquely is supposed to bring to this race. And with all respect to my friend Craig, and he is my friend, and I respect him greatly, I do disagree. I think Donald Trump is getting nervous and should be getting nervous, because you see a slow and steady gain on the part of Ben Carson. That's a pretty commanding lead, at least for the moment, but it also shows Trump on the downward slope himself, not simply Carson increasing his points, but Trump down a whole 5 points is a lot.
Craig, we see Trump yesterday on the campaign trail saying, hey, look, I'm mainstream, I'm Presbyterian, but we should note that formally the denomination known as the Presbyterian Church USA supports so-called abortion rights, same-sex marriage. Could that be problematic for Trump and add to problems for him in Iowa amongst that huge electorate of evangelicals?
Well, that's an excellent point, J.D. You know, the old adage, sauce for the goose, and I will say my hat's off to John, because he did forecast last spring and summer that Trump would go into a swoon sometime around September, October. So it remains to be seen whether or not it's permanent or whether it's temporary. But John was right, and that he has gone into a swoon. I don't know if it's nationally, but he certainly has in Iowa. But again, I think that, is that if Donald Trump is going to open up questions about the religion of Ben Carson, then it seems probably pretty fair to ask questions about his own faith.
Let's move to one of the other candidates who may be moving up the ladder a little bit. That would be Senator Marco Rubio. He's getting some criticism for missing Senate votes while on the campaign trail for president, and he defended his voting record, such as it is, to CNN over the weekend. Take a listen.
In the history of presidential politics, people have, when they've been running for politics in the Senate, they've missed votes. And I'm not missing votes because I'm on vacation.
But this many votes?
But actually, this is lower than what other people have missed. And here's the other point I would make. I'm running for president so that the votes they take in the Senate are actually meaningful again.
Now, it is interesting, and I've got my problems with Marco missing those votes. I think it's going to make it problematic for the next Florida Republican running for the seat. But it's worth noting, Craig, why wasn't this a big issue when then Senator Obama and then Senator Hillary Clinton both ran for president as sitting senators and missed votes? Is this part of that standard media double standard to discredit Rubio as he's showing some sparking in the polls?
No, do you think, really?
Hard to believe, right?
hard to believe there's a double standard in the liberal media that they would hold Marco Rubio to one standard and hold Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton to another. Yes, of course it is. That doesn't excuse Marco Rubio from missing votes and also saying that he's, implying that he's bored with the Senate and other things like that. In 1976, when then Senator Jesse Helms, who was campaigning long and hard in the North Carolina primary for Ronald Reagan, he actually he gave a check for $19,000 back to the U.S. Treasury for the votes he'd missed. So maybe that's what Marco Rubio needs to do is that if he's going to miss votes, refund the taxpayers and then and turn a negative into a positive.
Well, we'll see about that.
I'd like to address that if I could.
Go ahead, John, very quickly, sure.
Yeah, I think it did come up with Barack Obama on top of his inexperience as well, to be fair. By the same token, I think being bored with the Senate may very well help Marco Rubio. What hurts him in this instance is that he did pointedly say that federal workers who don't show up on a consistent basis should be fired. And that just teed him up, that juxtaposition teed him up for criticism, I think.
Yeah, Senator, address thyself and your own conduct. We can understand that. Hey, John, I want to get your take on the other side of the aisle, specifically Hillary Clinton, now following her appearance in front of that House Select Committee on Benghazi. It seems she's rebounding in the polls, now ahead of Bernie Sanders in most states. And, of course, Joe Biden decided not to run. Is this now a lock for Mrs. Clinton?
No. She's had a very good 10 days. There's no question about it. And she's soared in those 10 days. This is far from over. Democrats have this very powerful half a party of progressives. Let's go back to McCarthy and McGovern and Ted Kennedy and Gary Hart and so on down the road. And they have a voice in Bernie Sanders, and Bernie's doing well in Iowa, and he's doing very well in New Hampshire. This is not a lock yet. Stay tuned.
Okay, final 20 seconds. Let me get the conservative evaluation of Hillary's performance there, Craig Shirley. What do you think of it? Did she pass with flying colors?
Yeah, she gave herself a little breathing room, but I agree with John is that, in non-incumbent years, the Democratic Party never nominates its frontrunner. Only once in 1984 did they nominate the frontrunner, Walter Mondale, and he almost lost to Gary Hart. But Hillary was the frontrunner in 2008. Jimmy Carter wasn't the front-runner. George McGovern wasn't the front-runner. Michael Dukakis wasn't the front-runner. John Kennedy wasn't the front-runner. So I agree with John. In fact, I'll go so far to say is that Hillary will not be the nominee of the Democratic Party.
Okay. We're going to keep you to that, guys. Thank you both, Craig Shirley and John Zogby. Now, this programming reminder, be here tonight to watch Steve Malzberg's interview with Ed Klein, the New York Times bestselling author of Unlikable, The Problem with Hillary. He lifts the lid on Mrs. Clinton's 5 dirty little secrets, the secrets that could destroy her presidential campaign. That's tonight and all week at 7 p.m. Eastern and again at 10 p.m. Eastern on the Steve Malzberg Show right here on Newsmax TV. Up next, what does Jeb Bush think of Donald Trump as a prospective commander-in-chief? Well, you'll hear from the former Florida governor next.